Looking for clarity and confidence when it comes to decision making for your business? You've come to the right place. You're now listening to the Atomic Business Coaching Podcast.
Well, if you're listening to this, it is probably the time it is for you. But guess what? When we're recording it, it is about to be Q4 of 2024. So what Tom and I want to talk about today with you is how to really optimize, how to look at, how to leverage your fourth quarter of the year. Whether you're a startup business, a mid-sized business, a very well-established business, there are different ways to look at this, different ways to use your fourth quarter. But it is one of the most important times of the year, any stage of business you're at. So, Tom, what do you think about that?
I think it's really, it is the most important time of year. I think people have to remember as a business owner that it's not a holiday season. It's the end of the year, and we've got to really push and make those last quarter goals and make those end of year goals so that you can have a great start to 2025.
And that's what most people think. Exactly what you just said. Most people think I got to push hard. I got to close out the year. I got to get those numbers in. That is a corporate mindset, folks. That is what you've been taught to do. You've been taught through school, go ahead, learn the stuff, do the work, take the final exams. You're done. And taking the final exams is usually your fourth quarter, right? Or maybe your third trimester, but it's usually Q4 in school. You've been taught that way in school. So then when you go into the workforce, okay, first quarter, we're going to do this stuff. Second quarter, we're going to do these things. Third quarter, we're ramping up. Fourth quarter, close it out. Big year. January 1st, start from scratch. But this time in January 1st, do more because our shareholders want more. And I don't keep my job if I don't get more. So you better do your job and get more. And that's what you're taught. Guess what, folks? You own your own business. If you're listening to this, you most likely own your own business. You get to set this up any way you want. Now, if you're going to close out Q4 strong, you better have had a really good Q2. I'm going to say it again. If you're going to close out Q4, you better have had a really good Q2. And what that means is in Q2, you were really driving home your marketing. You were really going through and doing prospecting. You were building up pipelines. You were starting out campaigns, right? You were building it in Q4. You were executing that in Q3, setting up those appointments, starting to do the proposals, seeing rewards on your advertising, getting new people in your pipeline from your networking or from your social media or anything else. And then, yes, in Q4, you can close it. But if you didn't do that in Q2 and you're going to try to close out Q4, here's what will happen. You will most likely sell out of desperation. You will sell anything to anybody to hit a number. And that's what your boss wants you to do in corporate America. They don't care about your relationships. They care about how much money went on the board so they can keep their jobs. They don't normally care about yours. You're just a tool for them to keep their job. And they're a tool for their bosses to keep their job. And the CEO, everybody else is a tool, so the chairman of the board lets them keep their job. This is how it works. It doesn't have to work that way for you. So, Tom, how do we start thinking about control of our quarters, of our phases, of our seasons of business?
Yeah, well, I mean, you just hit a very important point. Like Alex Hormozi always says, where you are right now is the result of what you did 6 months ago. And I think one of the most important things is that if you embrace that every quarter is like the last quarter of the year, you can transition into those seasons quite easily. It's the mindset that you wrap your head around. I mean, we've talked about the 12-week year before. We've talked about how that works out, what you should be doing in those 12 weeks, making sure that every quarter is the same activity. You go, you prospect, you sell, and you deliver. And you do that over and over every single quarter. And you don't have the need for this bum rush at the end of the year in your fourth quarter. So it's just setting up each quarter to be the same thing over and over. And that will allow you to transition from one quarter to the next without the stress, without the anxiety of, I have to do better this quarter. No, just do better every quarter. Don't try to make it up. Don't try to do something. Don't try to catch up. And that's what a lot of people try to do at the end of the year in the fourth quarter.
I like that perspective. It's not a bad way to look at it. You know how we're always talking about consistency, but I think for most people listening to this may be the first time they've even thought of it this way, right? We're drastically shifting their perspective on, oh my gosh, I never realized that's what I've been trained to do, not what I wanted to do.
Right.
So what I would really encourage all of you to do, especially if you work for yourself and there's no shareholders expecting that year-end report with those dividends that are going to be put out, if you're in that position where you're in control of this, I would rather you spend the fourth quarter worrying about April, May, and June. That is Q2 of 2025. If you start doing the work right now that's necessary to build a business, to drive real sticky revenue, to get clients instead of customers, to really produce business instead of have transactions, if you start doing that now in October, November, and December, if you plan it out, in January and February and March, you start executing on it, then April, May, and June, you will have an amazing quarter. Now, what Tom is saying would come after you do this. Well, that would mean in Q1, you're going to do the exact same thing you did in Q4, but also executing in Q1. And then in Q2, you're going to start closing, but you would also be doing the execution from Q2 and the implementation and planning that you did in Q4 of this year. But what I want you to do first is don't worry about Q4. Do not worry about it. Worry about Q2 of 2025. And let's do the necessary work in the next 2 quarters so that Q2 of 2025 is the biggest, baddest quarter you've ever had in your business. And then let's replicate that from here on out. So Tom, let's talk about some of the things that it really should take to build up a good model so you can actually harvest these rewards.
Right. Well, first you have to have what your goals are for that quarter. What are the goals for April, May, and June of next year? What is it that you're trying to achieve? What do you want to achieve? And then you can set all the priorities you need to be able to achieve those things. Right. So it really is coming up with what's your plan? What's the strategy? What's the plan? What are the goals? What are you trying to accomplish? So if you decide, like we've talked about hosting an event in April, May, or June of 2025, we've got to put all of those pieces together now because we got to execute in the first quarter to sell it for the second quarter of next year.
You know, I want to use that. I want to use that just because this is a perfect example.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
So yeah, we're looking at April, May, June to put on this event, right?
Yep.
And we have already started talking to our colleagues who are going to do it with us. We said we're gonna start building things out in the fourth quarter. And when are we getting back together with that whole group to really start saying, all right, here's the plan of execution?
First week of January.
Right. See what I'm saying, folks? So exactly what we're telling you to do is what Tom and I do with our own business.
Right.
Is we really want to, and it's really June that we're looking to have this event. Right? But we had conversations 2 weeks ago about this. And now October, November, December, we're going to start really devising that plan. January, February, March, start implementing. And then April, May, June really is when we'll execute on that thing. And that's when we'll sell the tickets to our live event. They're going to be a $5,000 ticket. So that's when we'll do that. But you see, this is exactly what Tom's saying. Build your plan out. Now, your plan, it's nice to say, what are my goals? And that's what most people do. They put a number down. Here's how much money I want to make. But what happens is, do you have the capacity, the competency to achieve that thing? So what I prefer people to do is start saying, if I was at max capacity with my current competency, what could I do? Okay, and you can do this very simply with just a week, right? You could say, all right, in a week, here's how many hours I can put in. Okay, here's based on my knowledge and expertise. Okay, here's how much I can charge for the deliverables that I do. And then based on my expertise and experience, here's how much time it takes me to develop those deliverables, meaning like getting the client, doing the deliverable with them, and then actually service on the end. So when you start to figure all of these things out, you're like, okay, this is what I'm capable of.
Right.
Okay. Now, if you max that capacity out, figure out what that number is. Okay? And you're like, okay, on a week, I could really produce this much. And let's just hypothetically say it's $1,000 just for easy math, right? Well, based on that, I could produce $1,000. Well, that would mean in that quarter, you could produce $12,000. You shouldn't say, I'm going to produce $20,000. That's not what you should do. Okay. Because you will fail unless you change something and you add more people or you get more efficient with your time. But that's what people also tend to do is then they'll say, all right, well, if I can only produce 12, how do I produce 20? Well, if I do this faster, if I do this more expensively, if I get more efficient with those things, if I add more people, but they haven't done that. What I would rather you do is make that 12 grand and say, okay, now that I've done it, how do I make it more efficient, bring more employees into the fold, right, charge more money for the thing? And so many of you in business, you're rushing to like grow, but you haven't built anything. You have no evidence that this is even possible. So start with your capacity. Like, okay, what am I able to do? And then let's plan out from there. Well, yes, that is definitely step one. Okay. Step two. Do I have a meeting in 2 minutes, Tom? Did I have a meeting at 11:30 today?
You shouldn't.
Okay. I think that's an old client. Our San Diego client. No, right?
No, not this week.
Sorry for the interruption, folks. I just got a message. Must be an old appointment that I didn't delete because I thought we moved him. Okay, so back to the regularly scheduled program here. I got nervous.
What's your capacity, Adam?
Yes.
That's the one.
Once you realize, thank you, Tom. Once you realize what your capacity is, okay, now it's like, okay, well, what am I going to do inside of that time? And what are the efforts it needs in Q2 of 2025? What do I have to start doing now? Because there's going to be multiple phases. Like you may need to plan out, like, here's my structure, here's my deliverables, here's how my communication skills, here's my sales things, here's all the different things. Here's how I'm going to run the payments through. Here's how I'm going to onboard clients, or here's how I'm going to, whatever it may be. It's going to take time to figure that out. And maybe you have a model now, so it'll take you a little bit less time to figure it out and write it on paper. Okay. But then you're going to have to implement that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing. When you implement that, you don't just make money day one. Okay. You actually have to implement it so you can start making money. And then you'll start actually getting that money in. So the idea is, yes, you want to plan, and then you want to act, and then you want to analyze, and then you want to plan, and then you want to act. And this is a repeated system to get better. But if you're not going in there and just flat out saying, like, what am I capable of? That number is garbage. So what are some of the other things that they could do, Tom?
Well, I have a quick question on the capacity, right? Because think about it. If you only have X amount of capacity right now and you need Y amount of capacity to accomplish the thing, you have to also decide how you're going to increase your capacity, correct?
Correct. And there's multiple ways. So capacity, there's only two ways, time and money, right?
Yep.
That's really all it is. So do you have more money to throw at the situation, meaning AKA hire people to do work for you?
Right.
Or do you have more time where you can take from somewhere else and put it now for these things that you want to do?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think the other thing that you hit on there was competency. Mm-hmm. Are you competent to do this stuff? Do you have the right skills that are needed to maximize and optimize your capacity? Because if you have time and you have the resources to do the thing, right? We're just saying, go figure out what the thing is. Do you have the skills that are required to do the thing? Do you need to go and hire the people to do the thing because they have the skills that you're missing or lacking? So are you competent to do all of the things that you're setting out to do? And one of the things that a lot of people struggle with is they want to be able to do it all. And they have a hard time and they get stuck when they hit that point of, oh my God, I can't do this. And therefore I'm not going to do this thing. No, don't let that get you stuck. Being able to recognize what you're competent in doing, what you're capable of doing, is the key to deciding who you need to help you, not to be judgmental on yourself and not to put yourself in a position where you'll never accomplish the thing. So competency, yes, is very much needed to maximize your capacity, but don't ever feel that your incompetence should ever stop you. You need to find the resources that can help you to do that thing.
Yeah, that's probably more important than anything else, is understanding what your competency is. So good point, Tom. And there's the easy ways you can hire somebody. But for most of you listening to this, that's really not an option for you. And we get that, right? So yeah, there's go learn the thing, right? Just like go on YouTube and say, how do I do this thing that I'm not competent? You can start learning that way. Hire, group coaching with us is, as we have it now, $229. So it has gone up in the future. I can tell you that. But $229, and we will actually teach you how to do things and then walk you through and do them with you. You're not left alone. There's books you can read. There's school you can go to. There's a variety of ways for you to get skills. And that's really what you're supposed to be doing. As you delegate anything out, you're supposed to be acquiring new skills so you can become better at the next thing. And it doesn't mean you always just learn how to do the next thing, because you can hire for that, but learn how to do the things that are going to make the impact and make the money, right? That are going to fulfill your passion and your purpose. But if you don't figure it out, as Tom's saying, if you don't know how to do this, and then you just say, well, this is my capacity and I can do it, it's not going to work, right? You'll put all that effort and time in, and instead of making that $1,000 a week, maybe you make $200 a week. What are you going to do at that point, right? That's the problem. So yeah, you have to understand how to do things or who's going to do them for you. That's really all your choices are. And if you can't afford who's going to do it for you, then yeah, right now we're going to have to learn how to do it yourself. We've all been there. I've been there for almost every one of my businesses, especially in the early years, is I had to learn how to do it myself. Okay. I'm lucky now that we can figure out who to do stuff for us. Okay. And we just bring them in. And literally, when they're doing their thing, I have no clue how it's getting done. I don't know. I have someone that does paperwork for me. And like, if they showed me this thing, I don't even know what the words on the page mean, man. We have our CRM system in here and there's workflows. I'm like, what is going on here? Why is that? Why is there an arrow? And does that matter? No, it matters that it got done appropriately. I don't need to know how to do it. Okay. But if I didn't have the money to pay these people, if Tom and I didn't outsource this to people, okay, then we would have to learn exactly how to do it. Right. Okay. So you're gonna go through these phases, and that's okay. But if you're not saying, here's my capacity and here's my competency, then that plan is bullshit, right? It's just never gonna happen.
Right. Because if you don't understand where you need to fill in your competency, it is going to indirectly impact, it's going to directly impact your capacity. Because if you don't have the competence to do something and you have to go learn that skill, it's going to take away the time that you could be working on something else, and that's going to limit your capacity. So it really comes down to understanding those two key things. What's my capacity? What's my competence?
Okay, so we're 17 minutes into this podcast. I'm going to take a very sharp left turn. Hold on. Rich, if you could put some sound effects in there. Brakes and screeching. Oh my God, you sound like a dolphin. So everything that we said is very, very important. But as we've been saying, if you're a newer business owner, you still need to make money right now.
Mm-hmm.
All of this is and, not or. Okay? So you're going to do everything you're doing now and plan out for the second quarter of next year, not or. You don't stop everything you're doing. So here's how you should use Q4 to generate revenue that is right in front of you. Look at everybody that's there. Look at everybody you've spoken to throughout the entire year and come back with them at an approach saying, hey, we're approaching the end. We should probably be making a decision. Use this calendar year finality feedback and concept and societal norms that we've put on ourselves for those people. Go to them and say, hey, we're coming to a close. What is your decision? Do you really want to do this or not?
Mm-hmm.
And most of those people will say after the holiday and the new year, all those things, and you can certainly do that. And, we've talked about in business, speak to your accountant, because we are not CPAs, so we can't give tax advice. But there are certain ways in business, if you're selling business to business, when you sell something, they can use that as an expense on their books, which can potentially help mitigate their taxes. Again, we are not giving you tax advice. Talk to your accountant. So there are ways that you can take all the things that you've done this year and compress them down to make this a good financial fourth quarter for you without selling out of desperation, because you'll have a plan for how you're going to generate revenue in the future. And what most people do is they look and they clean out their entire pipeline and book of business, and then they're left with nothing in the beginning of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like starting over from scratch, like we said before. And that is not a good feeling. So yes, you have to make money this fourth quarter, okay? It's not all about planning.
Right.
But with something attached to it that you'll be able to have recurring opportunities to generate revenue inside of your business that were well thought out, fit with your capacity, and fit with your competency. Anything you want to add to that, Tom? And then let's wrap this up.
Yeah, no, I think you hit it on the head. Don't stop doing what you have to do. Keep doing everything that you have to do, because it is and, not or. And when you recognize that you have to separate and make sure that you're planning and still making money, That's something that's not easy to do. It is simple, but it's not easy. And the key is not to get discouraged. Use the momentum of what society's norms have put in place to really help yourself to have a very productive last quarter of the year.
Nice. We got t-shirts. You want t-shirts? I'll have them put the link in the show notes here. If you want that t-shirt that says end, not or, we got that t-shirt for you. We got plenty of others as well. They're fun. They're very inexpensive. I think they're like between $20 to $25 per t-shirt. But these are things that we use in our community. Tom and I wear. I mean, look, we got our Atomic t-shirts on today. We did not plan this. It just happened to be that way.
The uniform of the day.
Yeah, but we have that t-shirt that says end, not or. And it's a good reminder for ourselves, like, what am I supposed to be doing today? What is the intention of today? It's end, not or. So let's close out our fourth quarters really strong, but let's plan for 2 quarters away from now so we can continue to maintain that strength, confidence, and really go through and have freedom and success. Thanks all.